Tonight, we have an ACAP presentation. I'm Holly Ray. I'm a chapter coordinator for ACAP Center County, and I'm here with Jill Lilly. She's also an ACAP chapter coordinator. We do that work together, and we have our presenter here. But first, I'd like to tell you a little bit about ACAP. Okay, so thank you for joining us tonight. This is ACAP, Adult Children of Aging Parents. We are a collaboration of local chapters in North Carolina and Pennsylvania, and we continue to grow. ACAP offers information, resources, and support for the community of adult children and their aging parents. We have educational programming each month. Typically, we're meeting in person. However, due to COVID, we are always adjusting and shifting. We are planning to meet again hybrid starting next month, but always check out our website for local information. And if you miss a program, we have a YouTube channel. You can check us out at the ACAP community channel. And if you want to receive any monthly invites from ACAP, go to www.acapcommunity.org. And there is a chapter area on that website. Find your local chapter and follow those instructions. And if there's not a chapter near you, feel free to look around. There is also great information on our website. And connecting to a local chapter, North Carolina, those are the counties that are available. And currently in Pennsylvania, we have a chapter in Center County. And once again, it continues to grow. Just so you know, any information you share with ACAP is for our information only. We're not going to share anything with anyone else. So if you sign up for any of those email notifications, we will not send your email to anybody else. Good information is global, caring is local, and we want to thank our sponsors. In Center County, we have Penn State Health, Foxdale Village, Grain Hospice, Center County Office of Aging, Juniper, and Encompass Health. And without those businesses, we would not be here this evening. In ACAP Guilford County, we have Griswold Home Care, Providence Place, and Mount Zion. And once again, thank you to those sponsors. Upcoming events in Center County, July 12th, we are planning a hybrid and in-person. A reminder for Center County, in person, we meet at the Active Adult Center at the Nittany Mall. These are the dates, July 12th. We're going to have Quinn, the director of the Office of Aging, coming to present. August 9th, we have Cindy Keith talking about dementia. And in September, we're going to have a presenter talking about Medicare. This week, our partner is in Guilford, and they're going to be having an online and in-person presentation. So feel free to log in and check them out. Or if you're in that area, stop by for the live event. And once again, thank you for joining ACAP. And I'm going to let our presenter take it away this evening.
So can you see my screen? Yes? Holly? Can you shake your head if you can see my screen?
No.
Okay. Stop sharing, and then I'm going to share. Share and allow. Now can you see it? There.
Yes.
Yay. I love technology, even when it isn't working exactly how we would like it to work. So thank you for allowing me to be with your group tonight.
And also, real quick, I just want to interrupt. If anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. And when we see your questions throughout the presentation, we'll address those. So I apologize for interrupting. So thank you.
No, please. And interrupt if you have questions. I'm going to be showing some slides. I have a slide presentation for you. And let me know, because if I forget to stop and say, Holly, are there any questions? Say, hey, we've got a question. And I can just kind of put a hit the pause on what I'm doing here and see if I can give you any more information. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of your group tonight. And before we get started, what I'd like to do is just take a moment and bring us together in this virtual space. And if you are comfortable, either close your eyes or just look down with a soft gaze and just take a nice deep breath and choose the most healing color for you in this moment. There's no right or wrong answers. And the first color that comes into your mind is the color to choose. Now imagine or sense or see a triangle on the floor in front of you with a column of this beautiful effervescent healing energy coming from above. And now step into that column. And as you do so, just notice your breath. And allow this color to move through your body, down to your feet, and into the ground. Now take another nice deep breath, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Just notice how you feel right now. And again, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to be a part of your group today. My name is Levita PM. I'm a holistic health practitioner, a teacher, an author, and a caregiver. And because you're a part of this group, I'm assuming that you have taken on the role as a caregiver in your life. And it's something that is actually a part of your identity. And you may have really recognized that part of you at an early age. I know that I did. And as our parents have aged and are in more need of our help, it is those who have been identified, either self-identified or in a family dynamics. It's obvious who that person is going to be, and that as our parents have aged, we've just stepped into that role. And today, as you can see, what the topic of this is, knowing your limits as a caregiver, setting boundaries, and balancing family. What I want to talk to you about is the importance of setting healthy boundaries and the cost to your lives and your health when you don't do that. And it's something that we oftentimes don't even know how to do. However, boundaries that you create can make a difference in you having your health or being at risk for your health and you becoming ill and sick yourself. And boundaries are what keeps our life in balance. And boundaries allow us to define the me and the not me, the you and the not you. They're what separate your needs from the needs of the person that's being cared for. So there's a number of clues that reveal unhealthy boundaries. Feeling guilty because you're not doing enough. So as I'm going through these, just see if any of these resonate with what your role is in being a caregiver of aging parents. And guilt is something that I'm going to come back to in a little bit. But feeling guilty because you think you're not doing enough is one of the different things that can reveal unhealthy boundaries. Concern that others will see you as not doing enough. You know, there's people out there always judging everything, and probably we are the ones judging ourselves, but then we project that out that other people are also judging us. We frequently change plans to accommodate others. We narrow our social time with others. And we also take on responsibility for making others happy. That's a really big one for us as caregivers. I like I said, I was a caregiver, identified myself at a really early age. Probably by the time I was 4 years old, I knew that that was what my role in life was going to be that of a caregiver. So as we are moving through our lives, all of these different clues that we have that can reveal unhealthy boundaries are based on a constellation of beliefs. One of the strongest is that a caregiver must be there all the time for everyone else. And that's something that we just can't do, but we think that we can because it's up to us. It's our job. So, what are some of the ways that we can do and be aware of that can help us with creating healthy boundaries? What are the strategies for setting healthy boundaries? One of the first ones is saying no. Saying no is not something that's easy for us to do when we're asked to do something for somebody else. There's boundaries and our responsibilities, things that we take on, and we take on the responsibilities for other people. And there's communication. And when I'm talking about communication, I'm not only talking about your day-to-day talking about everything, but I'm talking about conscious communication. And I'm going to go through these three different things in a little bit more detail here. So one of the first things, saying no. I had a client who she really was not able to say no to anything. I called her a professional volunteer, a caregiver, and she found this card that really spoke to me about her. She gave it to me and she said she could speak 5 languages, but couldn't say no in any of them. And on the inside of the card, she said, "I guess that's me." And I said, "Yep, that would be you." So starting to see where you need to say no is one of the things that you need to do, because when we say no, and that's a real challenge for us, because it taps into one of those foundational beliefs that you have to give everything that you have, everything that you can, and even beyond, to the needs of those who are the loved ones that you're caring for. There's no questions asked, and saying no isn't on the list of something that you can do. But I want to tell you that saying no is one of the things that keeps boundaries between you and the not you from eroding. And the way we have to start really looking at when to say no is that we have to be honest about our limitations in terms of our time, our energy, and our finances. And those 3 different areas will be how you start, and it will be the guide for you when you need to start saying no. Because oftentimes we give more time than we really have. We give more energy than what we really have, and that leaves us depleted and exhausted. And we oftentimes give a lot of our money and finances when we really can't afford to do that. So this is your own energy bank of not only your time, your energy, but what you have in your bank. So saying no is one of the strategies that you can empower yourself with in terms of creating some healthy boundaries. So the second one that I want to talk about are boundaries and responsibilities, because there's so many things that you will be responsible for, not only things in your own life, but then suddenly you are taking on the responsibilities for the loved one. And one of the things you have to learn how to do is to allow your loved one to do whatever they can for themselves, excuse me. And that I think that one of the things that happens is that, first of all, there's just these expectations that are set up, and we just take it on. Caregivers, one of the things we do everything for everybody. We take it on, and there's expectations that start to have that silent voice that then there's just everybody thinks that you're the one, and they think, how can she be so strong? Well, meanwhile, what we're doing is we're collapsing underneath of it. And when we're trying to do everything for our loved ones, it's really a slippery slope. And so what they can do for themselves, even if it's something really small, you need to start looking at what that is and allow them to do it. Now, I know that some caregiving roles that the loved one that you're caring for really is incapable of doing things for themselves. But if there is something that they can do, like I said, even something so small, it not only gives you just a little moment, but it also empowers the person, because they've had so many things taken away from them in terms of their lives and what they can do, that they can start going down because they can't do anything for themselves. Find little things that they can do for themselves and give them that as their responsibility. So that's the first thing there, allowing your loved one to do whatever they can for themselves. The second one is start to make a list of the necessities of things that need to be done. And that's going to change day to day because, as in our own lives, what needs to be done changes every day, and what needs to be done for the one that we're caring for is going to be changing every day. And from this list, start to make a list of what's important for you to do, because that is something that once you have that list and you have the list of the small things that your loved one can do, then the last thing here is beginning to delegate. And is there someone that you can delegate some of the things that are on the list? Maybe family, church members, and if you don't have family or churches that you can rely on, or neighbors, then there are other, like the area agency on aging. There are other places that you can go to. So when I was in this role for a number of years with my mom, I moved my mom to State College, which is where I live, after my dad died, and I was pretty much the one that was doing anything. But I got to the point where I needed to start finding some other way to have things done for her that was going to free up some of my time. And for me, one of the things that was on that list of importance that I was talking about is it was really important for me to take my mother to doctor's appointments, because she was no longer able to listen and hear what was being said. So it's a good thing to have another set of ears in a doctor's appointment anyway. So that was really the top of my list of what needed to be done. My mother was no longer able to drive, so I was also the chief taxi driver of everything there. So that was something was important, but I didn't need to take her grocery shopping. And what I did is I found someone to help with that. So even little things like that can help you not only create some of the things in terms of responsibilities, but also creating some healthy boundaries around what you're doing. So this is leading us to the next important thing that was on my list. See if I'm going the right way. Yes, communication. And communication is something that is key in any relationship, but it is especially true for the caregiver and the care receiver relationship. Boundaries and communication set the tone for respect for both the one giving the care and the one receiving it. Having clear communications can really make things go more smoothly. And I'm not just saying that it's necessarily easy, because we oftentimes have never been trained how to communicate. But it helps to define the boundaries needed, and it can alleviate some of the fear and give a sense of security for the one that is receiving the care. Now, I have this little thing down here. It says conscious communication, and I don't know how many of you have been exposed to conscious communication. I was on the faculty of a holistic health institute for a while, and I taught a whole day class on conscious communication. And I was first introduced to what conscious communication means when my son, who is now 40, he's going to be 49 this year, when he was in elementary school. And some of you may know something called parent effectiveness training, or something that is called active listening. And that is what conscious communication is. And conscious communication starts with what is true for you. I'm going to go through the 3 different steps, and then I'll read this example that I've given you. What is true for you, and it starts with the I feel. Those are called I statements, because when you're talking about yourself, you're telling the truth of the moment, instead of talking about you over there, whoever the you is, the person that is receiving the care. And it is a disconnect, but there's when you start talking about yourself and say, I feel, then you talk about what's true for you. And that's the first step in conscious communication. I'm not saying I think, because think is always up for debate. How you feel is not up for debate. So, what is true for you, starting with I feel? And then it moves into what you will or won't do. And I'm not saying can't, because can't and won't are two different things also. I can't do it really says, I no longer can. I've given you everything. And that is when your boundaries have already been eroded and you can't literally do anything. You won't do it is what creates those healthy boundaries between you and the one you're giving care with. And then what you do is you end with reassurance that things are being taken care of by someone, even if it isn't you. So the example I give is actually one that I just mentioned, is that in terms of the grocery shopping, and the example is, I feel overwhelmed. That's what you're feeling, step number one, and I'm getting behind in all that I must do. That's true, and it starts with an I feel, and that is the first step. And then the second step is, I know I am no longer going to take you grocery shopping. It's what you will or you won't do. And then the third step is to let them know, I am arranging for someone to help us with this, reassurance that it's going to be handled. So when you first start working with conscious communication, it can feel really awkward. But with some practice and a little bit of awareness, this will become a little bit more natural for you. And when you already have everything in place, and those expectations that somebody is going to, that you are going to be the one taking care of it, that's that silent voice that's saying that, it's going to continue that way until you start making these changes. And there's likely going to be resistance to any changes, and you will need to be persistent. It's your health that is at risk. It's not only your physical health, but your emotional health, your mental health, and even your spiritual health. So if you think about how many people will be lost if something happens to you, then you need to start taking care of yourself. And I'm sure that this is like a metaphor that people have heard, but it's something that's actual. If you were on an airplane that's in distress and those oxygen masks drop down, you have to put the life-saving oxygen on you first so that you can be there to help others. And that's what caregivers often forget. They forget that they are also in need of taking care of themselves. It's not just the other person, and taking just little snippets at a time, that where you are taking care of yourself, what you're actually doing is shifting your nervous system from that continual cascading of stress hormones, and you start to shift into the relaxation mode, where some of those stress hormones are being swept out of your body. So, Holly, are there any questions?
Currently, no, just nice comments that they're enjoying the presentation.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so what we're going to talk about now is something that is really one of the biggest emotional issues that a caregiver has to deal with. And one of the clues to that is the amount of guilt that we have. And the clues to our unhealthy boundaries is that feeling that we carry with us that we have labeled as guilt. And this definition that I have given you here of guilt is, the definition of guilt is one that has committed a specific or implied offense. There's been a wrongdoing. There's something that is, that you have done, and it's oftentimes that we've done it to ourselves, but we've done something wrong. And that implication has a weight that is really heavy on you. And guilt is something that erodes your boundaries, because what it does, it makes you feel like I have to do even more. I have to do even more. And it wreaks havoc on your nervous system, and has devastating consequences on your own health, because one of the things that happens when all of those stress hormones are flooding into your body, and that is something that is a chronic situation for, I'd say, most of the people on the planet at this point, but especially for caregivers. And the first thing that happens when the stress hormones flood in is that your immune system gets shut down, and that the immune system is there for maintenance and repair. And if you are in a stressful situation, you're actually in a survival mode, and that in survival you need to be either fighting or fleeing. And so when you are in that chronic state, that is where your immune system gets shut down, and that you are in that survival mode with that. So there are a number of things that can trigger guilt. And here's just a list of some that I think are probably at the top of the list. So it's a lack of patience and having angry reactions. I know I have interviewed people who are caregivers, and some of the calmest, sweetest people say, "I can't believe that I got so angry." It's like, I know that she wasn't able to help herself, but I just got really angry and I exploded. And that is something that is really typical of something that happens, and it's one of the triggers of guilt. And then after you're angry, it's like this whole wave of guilt that flows over you, and that is just this never-ending cycle when that happens. And that because we're in such overwhelm, um, that can be, that we're really thin, and the anger really gets triggered easily. And we have this list that is never done, and that we're not even taking care of our own lives, much less trying to take care of the lives of somebody else. And that list makes our plate over full. And then when we are trying to get something done, especially if you are around your loved one, there's all of the interruptions that occur, and that lack of patience and having angry reactions is something that easily bubbles up and flows over. So another trigger of guilt is not spending enough time with your loved one. And as I'm reading this again, this list, just really see if you're resonating with any of these different triggers of guilt. I think they're pretty typical of somebody who is in the caregiving role. Not spending enough time with your loved one. The perception may be that that time is not actually spent with a loved one, and that may be their perception. But what you're actually doing is all this behind the scenes stuff, making sure that everything is done. Whether it's there's food in the house, there's pill boxes, there's doctor's appointments, there's whatever it is. You're doing all of that, and then the loved one can perceive this as that you're not spending enough time with them. And that's their perception of what is going on. And it may not be what is true for you, because you're spending time. You're just not spending that one-on-one quality time because you don't have it. You don't even have that for yourself or the other people in your life. But that is another one of those triggers of guilt, not spending enough time with your loved one. This one is a big one too, taking time to do something for yourself. And it is difficult to do something for yourself, even like managing your own life and taking care of your own responsibilities, much less doing something that might be relaxing and fun. Well, certainly can't do that, because that is a huge mantle of guilt that comes down, because there's this little voice in your head that's telling you that you don't deserve to do something for yourself, because you haven't given everything. If you had some time to do something for yourself, that time should be given to your loved one, because you're not spending enough time with your loved one. So taking time for yourself to do something for yourself is a pretty big trigger of guilt. And it's probably not even something that most of us have thought about, and could really move into a situation where we're doing something because there's always that little voice in the back of the head. And then this last one that I've listed, there's many other triggers of guilt, but I think these are some of the ones that are the most prevalent for caregivers at the top of the list. Having negative feelings and thoughts. And this is a really big one that caregivers don't even like to give voice to. And it's often something that gets pushed way, way, way down inside. And what comes along not only with the guilt, but is the shame that you even have these negative feelings or thoughts. And then that can lead the caregiver into feeling like they're a victim in some way. When is it going to be my time to have a life again? And those different those negative feelings and thoughts that we have, that life will be so much easier when, and then it's like, nope, can't go there, don't want to think about that. We can't even give voice to it, but it's something that is going on, that then how we deal with that is that we just load on more guilt, more guilt, more guilt. Because if I'm guilty, then I can not negate the feelings and thoughts that are negative, but I can feel somehow okay about that. So those are the triggers of guilt that are the most prevalent for those of us who are caregivers. So the question is, what do we do about it? And the key element for releasing guilt is forgiveness. Forgiveness. It's such a word. A lot of people think that forgiveness is letting somebody off the hook, but what it's doing is getting yourself out of the prison that you have put yourself in when you have all of this guilt. So forgiveness. So how do we do that? So first of all, because guilt is something that has to do with wrongdoings that you have been perceived as having created some kind of an offense. First, you have to start by identifying the wrongdoings that you believe you have committed. And when you stop and think about it, you may discover that many of the things that you're blaming yourself for doing wrong are actually unreasonable. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, if you have identified a real rather than an imagined or overblown wrongdoing that needs forgiveness, acknowledge what you have done and apologize to the person offended. Two different things there. Number one is all of these perceptions we have about ourselves, and that they may be, imagined or overblown. But then the second one is, if you really have identified something that is real rather than imagined, then acknowledge what you've done and apologize. And that can go a long way in forgiving yourself. The first person you have to forgive is yourself. And then let it go. And the let it go, I know I have heard many people say, yeah, that's easy said, but how do you do that? I'm going to give you one thing when we're finished here with going through these three things that you can be proactive in your life with. So the third thing is, notice if you're playing the same offense over and over in your head. Those tapes will often start with what should have been done and regrets that you either did or didn't. Shoulds and regrets are laden with the heaviness of guilt. Listen for those shoulds in the voice in your head. They are clues leading you to the territory that's fertile for guilt to plant itself. So if you notice that you're still, you've gone through step one, step two, and then you notice that you're still in that, I call it shoulding on yourself. All the shoulds, I should have done this. I'm so sorry that I didn't. Oh, if I had only, and all of that voice in your head. Then what you do is you start with number one again. Identify the wrongdoings and stop and think about it and discover the things that you're blaming yourself for and see if they're really unreasonable. And then number two, identify whether it's real or imagined, and then apologize. So unless you forgive yourself, you won't be able to move forward. You will stay stuck in a never-ending loop that drains you of your energy and your health. And when you clear yourself of the heavy mantle that you carry on your shoulders and in your heart, that is when you can move forward. And what you're moving forward into is your own health, and well-being. So I'm going to ask, before I do the last thing here, I'm going to ask, Holly, are there any questions that anybody would like to ask?
Currently, at this time, no.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to give you something. It's something that I teach my clients, and it's called the Ho'oponopono. And it's actually an ancient Hawaiian practice that allows you to heal and correct your relationships. And it's a form of mental and spiritual cleansing of the connection that you have, can be with yourself and with others. And the word itself, the HOO means to make, and pono means right. And when it's repeated twice, the Ho'oponopono, it means to do so doubly. And it's based on taking complete responsibility for your experience. And when you take responsibility for your experience, you are empowered. It's like, this is me. I did this. And what we're taking responsibility for is, I created this voice in my head. So this practice, if you, throughout your day, you stop and be still, take a breath and imagine that you're talking to yourself as you would talk to a friend who is weary. And you just repeat these 4 phrases several times, and then take another deep breath and let it in. So the phrases are, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And that this can be said like a prayer or a mantra, or just having a conversation that you're, that higher self that is you, that you're having with this part of you that is suffering. Or it can be a conversation that you can imagine that you are having between, you, and even imagine with the caregiver, the care receiver that you have. And when you say these words, what you do is you come to a place of liberation and peace. And you're speaking to your inner wisdom that guides you to living in this moment, where you begin to process and release stress that has built up in your body. It opens your heart, and you have access to compassion and forgiveness and love, all of which are healing. So when I am saying these 3 phrases, as a caregiver, when you say it, this could be what you are actually saying to yourself. The higher self saying this to that part of you that is so weary. I'm sorry that you're feeling weary. Please forgive me for not paying attention when you were also one in need. Thank you for all that you have done for everyone. You are appreciated. I love you. And I want you to know that you are valued and seen. And just taking a moment throughout the day where you stop and take that breath, and you bring yourself to that stillness, which isn't something that is there in our busyness, but just that short breath, and just say, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. So if you do this process, just trust this and just see what happens. If you do this throughout your day, even a couple times during the day, just see what happens with that. So thank you for allowing me this time with you. And Holly, are there any questions?
There was a question if they could get these notes or your slides. Would you make them available?
I can do that. What I can do, how do I get them? I can send you, this is a PDF that I did of, I did it as a PowerPoint, and then I made it as into a PDF. So would I email that to you or to Jim?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
absolutely. I would love to make this available to you. And this Ho'oponopono it's just one of the things. I'm an energy body worker, and I have different protocols. This is just one that I work with. And in the beginning, where I was working with the triangle that's in front of you, there's 3 points on the triangle, and the first one is to just take a breath. I don't know how many of you are familiar with something called emotional freedom technique. It's called EFT, acupressure tapping. And that's part of this triangle. And then meditation. But this Ho'oponopono is one of the many different protocols that I use with clients that can help them shift their nervous systems into relaxation mode.
Uh, Lavita, I just wanted to mention that I really appreciated these ideas. They're short, sweet. I know caretakers are pinched for time, and this is something that doesn't take that much time, and yet um, should offer you some relief.
Absolutely. I put all of these in a book form, and I know that caregivers. I know from my own experience that I didn't have time to sit and spend an hour meditating or doing anything. So I wanted something that could be just really concise and something that you do just throughout the day, because even those little snippets where you bring yourself into this present moment, like I did in that little bit of it was a very short meditation that I did with you in the beginning. When you do that, while you were doing that and listening to my words, what you were doing was actually shifting your nervous system into that relaxation mode. That's the part of the nervous system that starts to go, oh, everything's okay. Just in this moment, everything's okay. And then we're going to get back on that treadmill of all we need to do. But if we start to just moment by moment, little snippets at a time, start to clear away some of those stress hormones that are always cascading into our body, we're starting to regain something for ourselves. We're empowering ourselves, and we're starting to bring health and healing to our own bodies. Because, like I said, you got to put the oxygen mask on you first, because if you don't, then there's a lot of people that are going to go down with you. Yes. Okay. So I guess we're done for the evening. Is that how? I'm not sure how this works here. Do you want me to stop sharing my screen? Just tell me what you want me to do here.
We're all finished for the evening.
Okay.
And so thank you, everyone. And thank you for presenting great information. And one question that popped up is like, they know what to do, but they forget to do it.
Yeah.
So any wisdom?
Yeah, well, one of the biggest challenges that we have as human beings is that we forget. One of the my meditation authors and favorite people from the Baby Incredible graduated at a group where he was talking about meditation and remembering, and he had this huge banner in the back that just said "Remember." And when he left the whole thing, he forgot to take the banner. So I would say that it takes practice. And when you forget in some moments, it's like, oh, I could have done that. Just do it right now. Just, take a moment and go, I, I'm sorry. Please forgive me in this moment. I forgot again. Thank you, because I do love you. I love you, this vessel that you are, that brings this light and love into whatever it is you do. You just have to keep at yourself. You have to be persistent with yourself also. So just one little moment where you stop and you're still and you kind of look around your room. When you bring yourself into the present moment, you start to immediately shift your nervous system. And bringing yourself into the present moment means you stop and you look around. Where am I? What is the space that is holding me right now? Oh, it's the space of the present moment. So just little, if you can even do it for 4 seconds, that is going to start shifting. So just keep doing it. Keep doing it over and over.
I think you bring up a good point, because sometimes we get of the mindset, if we can't do it right and do it all, then we're not going to do it at all.
Exactly.
So something is better than nothing is what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, we have to know that all or nothing is really setting yourself up for failure in everything, not just with this, but it's just like, I'm going to congratulate myself and have gratitude that I remembered 2 times today to do this. Wow, isn't that great? That is a moment where you can celebrate And then sometimes you might go for 4 days and not remember. Then when you remember, you go, yay, for that. Because what you're doing is you're changing your brain, literally changing your brain when you do that. You're giving it a different message, and there's different neural pathways that start to connect with that. And that's what we're trying to do, is build the neural pathways that can give us that, oh, remembering. Oh yeah, remember, I'm right here, right now. I'm not at the grocery store. I'm not at the doctor's. I'm right here in this moment, right here, right now.
Great. Well, thank you.
Yes, you're more than welcome. Thank you for allowing me to be here with all of you today. And I will send you the PDF. I'll email the PDF so that you can do whatever it is you're going to do with it.
And thank you. And thank you everyone for attending
Thank
this
you
evening.
so much.
Remember to log into our website to learn more. Thank you.
Okay.